This is Internet Marketing.
Hello, Kelvin Newman here, and welcome to the Internet Marketing Podcast. We've got a slightly different change of format coming up over the next few weeks. Recently, we had the BrightonSEO event, and one of the popular elements of the program there are panel discussions, where we get groups of people together to have live discussions around interesting topics around search and more broadly digital marketing. So we've decided to take a few of those panels and use them as episodes for the Internet Marketing Podcast, so you can get a bit of a sense of what those panels are like at BrightonSEO. So yeah, we've got one of those coming up. I hope you really enjoy it.
My name is Claire. I'm a local search expert at BrightLocal. So I think my main area of interest and experience is in local SEO. So for bricks and mortar and for service area businesses. So I'll hand over here to Sally.
Hi, I'm Sally. I'm an SEO consultant and independent freelance. I'm mainly technical SEO, but all things on site as well.
I'm Dave. I'm the head of organic at Over International, who are an agency based here in Brighton, but working globally. We specialise in international SEO. So that's one of my areas of expertise, along with everything technical as well, and have quite a lot of experience working with e-commerce businesses as well as B2B and financial services.
Lastly, I'm Tom. So I currently work the last 3 years at Moz and Stat, where I'm responsible for a lot of our data and keeping on top of trends and this kind of thing. And previous to that, I worked for, I think, 8 years at Distilled. So a lot of that was sort of enterprise SEO and the problems that come around with that. So again, technical often, but also some of the more tricky questions around what these sites should and shouldn't include.
Okay, so format-wise, it's impossible to audit a site because you would need access to all sorts of things and have lots of tools. So what we're going to do is come to you if you've got any sort of specific topics or queries and you want us to have a quick look at a particular site, then just come to us with that, and then you get 4 people having their brains thinking about stuff. And come in with questions as well. If you've got different points of view or you've got something that you wanted to argue about, then we're here for it.
Probably also worth mentioning that this has been recorded for a podcast, right? So if you could wait for the microphone to get to you.
Yeah. Anybody got a little website or a question? We can warm up with a Oh, hello.
Hi, I'm Rob. I work for a company called ATG. So the website, if you want to bring that up, is atg.auto.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the site and what it does?
Yes. Yeah, so ATG offer solutions to car dealerships across the whole kind of spectrum of being able to sell a car. So I work in the SEO department. We work as an agency, so we do marketing for some of our clients. Our biggest kind of revenue driver is we are a website provider. So we build websites for the customers, host them on our platform. And then we have technology alongside there, which helps to manage their stock. So from retrieving the stock to selling the stock to then after sales as well. So across the whole gamut of anything a car dealer could want, like that's what we try to offer there. I haven't worked too much on this site yet, so a big trouble that we have, and I've looked at competitors, it's the same thing. We talk in one language, and our customers talk in a completely different language. It's been really hard for me to try and get that across to us, of like, we can't keep talking, like omni-channel retailing is great for us to talk about. I don't think it's great for car dealerships. I don't think they're searching for terms like that. So yeah, generally that's my first really kind of question, how to get across that challenge.
Do you think that people are searching in some way for those things, or is it more they are searching for a problem they have in their businesses that they want to solve and then looking for what the solution is because they don't know what the solution is?
That's the full process I would have, but then I'm also not entirely sure how much they're even searching for the problem as well.
So some of this could be around like demand generation, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. And as a brand, that's what we're trying to do a lot of right now. You saw it come up as one of the pop-ups there. We've got a tool called Fusion. Fusion is is trying to get all your technology into one place. So of course we call it Fusion, but no one's going to be searching for Fusion yet. So again, it's trying to understand like how to get that in terms on a website that then people might search and find.
And you think that the prospective clients, the dealerships, will they currently be using a competitor of yours or nothing at all? Or
yeah, there's a good chance, and this is a lot the thinking behind Fusion, that they're probably using maybe like 3 or 4 different platforms for different areas across the business, and we can do it all for them as well. So that's why I say when I look at competitors, they're very, very similar as well. They will talk in their language, which is not necessarily language.
They have the same challenges, yeah.
As well. Bear in mind, a lot of car dealerships are very sales driven, so they're not as aware of like marketing side, for example, or even like technology side and specific things that might be a solution to a problem they don't even know they're having yet.
Okay. So at the moment, for you and for your competitors, is there like a certain kind of contract length that people have? So is there going to be a certain point where your potential customers are, have a contract that's coming up for renewal and they might be looking for a new provider? Or
yeah, typically I'd say I think you'll be on a rolling contract, probably after maybe like 12 months or 6 months initially. Then they're usually on like rolling contracts.
Okay. And do you have many people coming to you at the moment who are finding you via search? Is there anybody, or is it?
So most of the searches are brand related, and ATG is 4 brands that came together as one. So we do get a lot of searches for old brands as well, which redirect new to the website. Another trouble we have as well, they decided to call it ATG. There's a very popular theatre group who go by the name of ATG, who then monopolize that. And of course you can see there, that's not us as well, that's ATG, Auto Tuning shows up there. So we've done a lot of pressing on automotive transformation group to begin with, to then be able to work on ATG on the back end of it.
I have a couple of thoughts which I'd be interested in the rest of the panel's thoughts on, or indeed anyone else's. Would you mind clicking through, Claire, into some of the solutions pages on the site?
Yeah.
So my first thought is, in a lot of these, the site has landing pages, and as you say, it's difficult to know what to optimize them for. But they're quite sort of like, they're quite heavy, like quite text heavy. Like it would take me a while to read like through all the tabs and all the text on this page. And that's quite challenging if people already maybe don't know what they're looking for. But my other thought is, if you're in a situation, and I think Dave was alluding to this, if you're in a situation where people maybe aren't even searching for the problem, you kind of need to start earlier in the funnel. If search is even the play, and that's maybe another debate, you have to start earlier in the funnel and start producing content around the things that they are looking for, and sort of build their awareness that you exist that way, and then over time you nurture them into it. And obviously that's a long process, which can be it's not always the right play for every business to pursue a long-term organic. So I mean, it has worked very well for many businesses, but what do people think?
I'm just thinking about the keywords that you're targeting here, and whether your question is more around what sort of content you should be writing to reach that audience.
Yeah, kind of along the line there, we might have to go really high.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a job of what kind of what we're building on the website itself as well. Obviously, we kind of want to get to those converted landing pages. So that's also an area they're going to need to think about as well. As building that journey within the website, and how do you ever get to a point where it becomes too much content?
I think you can get to a point where there's too much content, but it's always about the way you design it on the page and how you break that up into segments that actually call out to the user. And then if you have got lots of informative content, maybe have it in the accordion or have it at the bottom of the page where it's not interrupting the user's journey. I also think the language that's being used is really difficult for the user to understand what it is you're doing. So I think there's definitely a bit of work to do there around, I suppose it's providing competitive tools for the automotive market and maybe using some more language around that.
Yeah, I mean, to be totally candid, I have worked on a site before in this sector, and I still didn't really know what this website did from looking at it. So it's quite challenging. But I mean, that's not to say it's easy from your perspective either. But yeah, it's quite, I don't know, businessy language, shall we say, on the site at the moment, which, yeah, as you say, rightly, is probably not what your customers are speaking in.
I put my hand up. Two things I would think about. One is along the lines of what people have been saying is what problems are you looking to solve, is I'm sure that you have got people that you already work with that are like your tame people that you can go and talk to and really go and do an in-depth interview with, like, how do you make these decisions? Who are you looking for? Really do all of that research to understand all the different stages, so you move away totally from this. And that's, some people might say persona stuff, but I'm like a really in-depth understanding. And then look at your competitors, look at their touch points and think about how are they answering these questions better? So that was the first one. And then you mentioned that a lot of people will already find you with a branded search. So you already know that people are actually making branded searches. So if we look at this, and I know this is partly influenced by the geography of where I'm searching from, but you really need to own your brand. So I don't want to see ATG auto-tuning. I need to see, because if you have a bricks and mortar office, even if it's an office that people come and visit you in, then you need to have your Google business listing. You need to optimize the bottom out of that listing, and make sure that you have got your products on there is completely, so you basically, when people search for you, they see good stuff and they click through and they get them through to your website, which then actually answers people's questions and has the right content on it.
This is maybe a big question to come from the SEO team of any company, but maybe ATG isn't the best thing to use as your brand signifier. Like if you used ATG Auto, for example, that might be easier, and that, you're going to have more if you get your customers or prospective customers searching for that, then they're not going to be competed out by a ticket site, which may or may not be actually contestable.
Going back to Tom's earlier point in terms of creating content that's higher up in the funnel, I think there is a question of how much content should you produce, or how high up that funnel should you go. What you need to do really is to understand who you'd be competing against if you go very top of funnel, whereas maybe not even directly related to your solution, but it's stuff that people who could be interested in what you're doing might be searching for other parts of their business. So you need to understand, are there a lot of competitors out there that are already doing a great job of it? Do you think that you can actually deliver content that is going to meet the needs of those users making those searches? And if you can, and you think you've got a good chance to search for that, then coming up to that research, then that is a good opportunity. But the higher up you go, the less, the conversion rate's going to be, so the more content you have to produce. So you need to have a think about whether, you actually got the ability and the resources to have a content strategy. And it's not going to work straight away. You need to create enough content, enough topical authority to actually get to that point where you'll see you as relevant to the topic and start to show your content.
The silver lining, I suppose, sorry, I see there's a couple of questions in the audience, but the silver lining, I suppose, is there's, compared to a site like AutoTrader or something like this, it's worth going after very low volume keywords here if they are going to be particularly relevant to the audience. So there'd be keywords that maybe you would consider going for as top of funnel content that no one else would. Now, that's speculative on my part. I don't know that for a fact. But it might be that there is reasonably uncontested search real estate there. It might also be that there are big players who have swamped it out. I'm not sure.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. So, hi. Just a quick question around this, as you talk a lot about the problems and the solutions on these sites. And how do you feel about chatbots, FAQ things that pop up in terms from a site health perspective and also from an SEO perspective? Is that an easy short-term solution to have people come to the site? And if the content isn't there, there's a way of being able to get a conversion or an email, etc.
That already requires quite a high level of intent, right?
Yeah, but if they're coming on with branded terms, hopefully they do have a high level of intent. So it's to getting that conversion through or them to contact you.
Yeah, I have views, but I've also talked a lot, so.
I've worked in companies where it's definitely worked for them, even on sites where they've got the content. So yeah, even though as SEOs will be like, get rid of it, it's ruining things, they'll be like, no, we've got data to say it's up in the inquiries, it's impacting our bottom line and it's staying. So yeah, I think chat box, yes. I'm not sure about FAQs because it's a bit lower intent. It's usually the informational queries. So maybe, yeah, I think it's good having it on the page and optimizing for it. But in terms of actually having it popping up for a user, they might actually find that quite disruptive.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Hello. I don't want to be that guy, but on the search results, you can pop back to that one. The site that's ranking third is also you, and you robotsed it out, but it's still there.
Is AGT Autotune the same company or not?
No, that is that actual site that's coming up with the local knowledge panel. That is ATG Auto-Tuning. No, because we're Automotive Transformation Group.
So the knowledge panel is a big play there if you are going for ATG specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to check to see if that's the same outside of Horizontal Set, so local business, but at least, you know.
At least they're a local business with quite poor technical SEO. We can say that.
So if anyone needs their car looking at, ATG, Auto-Tuning.
It's an interesting thing. Is if I did need my car looking at, would I take them having good SEO as a positive or a negative?
I mean, I always rely on Google business profiles. That's my end choice in making any new business.
Yeah, I read the reviews on GMB as well. Yeah.
Shall we try for another site? Go on.
Hi.
Hello, Grace.
Hi, Tom. I'm Grace. So I work for an agency, and I shouldn't really disclose my actual clients, but I work with a lot of e-com retailer clients, pretty large sites, global site, regional sites. So my question is around international sites and hreflang specifically. A lot of clients have come to us. I mean, for example, you could probably go to like an H&M. Probably they'll have some similar hreflang setup there.
Yeah.
That's not our client, by the way. Just an example. Our clients approach us asking about how much they should implement in terms of region and language. So, for example, if their site is in Germany, should they expand to all the different languages, like French in Germany, English in Germany, Swiss in Germany, etc.? In your experience, what I'm looking for really is have you had experience with Google just not indexing those different versions of sites? Have you seen issues with hreflang being formatted?
For what it's worth, H&M seems like an absolute disaster. I don't know how much you know about this site, but I'm looking. I don't know whether it's the same for Claire, but the top ranking site for H&M that I've just searched is www.hm.com/en_gb. Mm-hmm. Number 2, you've got what I assume is their X default, but I haven't looked yet, and it's hm.com/entrance.ahtml. So yeah, this a great choice of example. I'm glad they're not your client. But I think to answer your question directly, I might try and stick this into maybe the Merkle tool or something like this to spit out the hreflang options. But
I mean, doesn't look like it has any hreflang at all, actually, H&M, so it might be.
Well, I saw I probably shouldn't also talk about things. Never mind. But yeah, I think to answer your question directly, I think having a lot of these variants is on average a bad idea. I've certainly seen examples in the past where, you know, if a site has too many English language variants, then there's one of two things happens. Like either they're all the same broadly, and then you're at risk of Google selecting English in the Netherlands as the canonical, because hreflang is not a replacement for canonicals. Google will see if you've got multiple identical pages and you're telling Google that they're different translated versions. If Google thinks they're identical, they'll still pick a canonical. And if you're trying to rank with your English language, the Netherlands page in the US, the UK, etc., it's going to struggle. Or you make them all different, and you've got this massive copywriting activity where you need to translate your hundreds of thousands of page e-commerce site into all of these slightly different worded, like, who are you really writing for on the 90,000th highest traffic page for Dutch English language users? And why does that need dedicated copy, and who are you getting to do that? And if your answer is AI, that might cause other problems based on what we've seen recently. So no, I know that a lot of businesses do this. I've seen a lot of, particularly e-com sites actually, with hundreds of translated versions, often with on-page HTML hreflang tags that just go on for ages. But I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's much better to avoid it if you can, or just if you really feel the need, just have very stripped back sites in these markets.
I'd say, for a company that really does have global reach, and so will have local stores, a significant number of people searching for the brand in these different markets, it probably is worth having some localized pages. There's two things. There's one thing is just having a version for each different language, and
like a full language. Yeah,
have at least one version for each language which is relevant to you. And then it's then saying, okay, well, for English, should we have a US version and a UK version, etc. And I think even if just some of the pages are going to be different and localized, then you are going to need to have local versions for everything. Otherwise, you'll have a weird experience where maybe you come into the homepage and that's localized for the UK, but then when you go to a category page, then you end up going to one that's a global one. So you kind of have to do all pages in that way, or none of them. And I think, for these kind of businesses, the likes of H&M, there is, enough benefit to actually localizing content.
For sure. I think where it's getting messy, and the kind of examples I'm talking about is when you've got you've got 30 different English language translations, and most of them aren't English speaking countries.
Yes.
Or German speaking or French speaking or whatever.
That's true. And in some cases, you'll have a situation where you've got the Netherlands, where it's a significant number of people there maybe are going to search in English, and it's worth doing a keyword research and just working out the effort against the potential gain from doing that. And can you have a different English version that is also suitable for Netherlands? It does get a little bit different with e-commerce quite often, because sometimes there's local kind of regulations, the pricing and so on as well. So often with e-commerce, you will see, different versions for every market, where the only differences really are the prices in a different currency, and a few regulatory things. But in some cases, that's the only way to do it.
In an interesting sort of medieval throwback, for those who are fond of medieval history, I went to the Dutch homepage, which is hm.com/nl_nl/index.html. And then
I'll just find
and then I changed it to en_nl to see if they had that, and of course it redirected to ns/spa, as in Spanish, I assume. So I thought that was quite fun, but it's also a 404, so unfortunate.
Good times.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Should we? More on H&M.
Let's just shit on H&M for an hour.
Does anyone want to see the spring edit?
I would actually really like to piggyback on this question, and I also can't share the name because I work for the vendor. So I'm in Salesforce. So we have a lot of big international customers, creating lots of locales. But interesting, I'm working with a new customer. They're based in India. They only serve the Indian market, and I'm looking at their current site to give them some guidance on what they might be doing.
Is it multilingual in India? Multilingual, sorry.
No, so this is interesting. So what you were saying, they want to make some pages multilingual, some not, and immediately I was like, not going to happen. So that's fine. But the other thing I've noticed on their current site is they have hreflang. So they generally do English, but India. So they have a single hreflang, so just a self-referencing hreflang. And again, I looked at it and I went, I can't see any reason why you would do that. But I just want to, is there any reason why you would do that?
The only reason I can imagine to do that is future-proofing, no? Like if you are planning to add variants, then maybe you get the infrastructure in early. I don't think that there used to be. You could put it in search. I can't remember if you can do this anymore. In Search Console, you used to be able to say you're targeting a specific market, and it was actually quite impactful. But I don't think putting a self-referencing hreflang does that. Yeah,
I personally think self-referencing tags can have a little bit of influence. To say, this is particularly relevant to.
That is what I was wondering, because you can't do the targeting anymore. It's like, well, is this some way that you can say?
Right. Because sometimes Google will work it out for itself, and sometimes it won't. So it's giving it an extra signal. So I think there's definitely no harm in doing that, and I think it can have a bit of an influence, maybe because it's a little bit unsure.
I mean, they also have hreflang on that plan. Thank you.
Have we got anything else? Another question, topic, site?
Hi.
Hello.
First of all, congrats for the whole setup and the format. We love it. I'm Charlie. I'm working for an SEO agency in France. So I have this client. I won't disclose the name, but you don't actually need it. It's more of a strategy idea and a conundrum that I have. So they are a used car dealer, and
we're big on used cars today.
Yeah.
Nice. And they recently acquired another website that's also selling used car, but it's more of a classified ads type of things, right? So now I'm also in charge of this second website now. And
congratulations.
Yeah, but it's also a pickle because now I have to make sure that both sides rank well on used car queries. So how do I go about not making them compete with each other? Also, given the fact that, of course, the revenue is much bigger on the
original site
than the classify. Yeah.
I assume that historically, before they were part of the same company, I assume historically these sites did compete successfully?
Yes, they did.
So why not continue, right? Like, you're getting 2 spots on the SERP for as long as that lasts. I mean, at some point, maybe if you make the sites too similar or something like this, Google might figure it out, and then you'll only get 1 spot on the SERP, and then that's bad news and you have to pick one. But for now, is it not the best of all worlds?
It could be, but the thing is they want to grow very fast. They have really high goals for next year. They want to double traffic, both of them on the same market, on the same niche.
And that, I mean, I've worked in a few industries where that has been the strategy, and it's not a problem at all, because it's not cannibalization. You're not actually competing with yourself. You're actually improving your visibility across SERPs through different brands. I think if you're actually sharing duplicate content across these sites, that's going to be an issue, and you're going to have to choose one of the canonical. But if you're creating unique content and user journeys that reflect the audience that is coming to each site, it's not going to be an issue.
I think in a lot of these cases as well, like when you have these SERPs that are kind of slightly ambiguous intent, so maybe you have, for example, a dealership and a classified site and maybe a review site and this kind of thing all appearing together, if it's not like you could say it's classified site and then review site, it's not like if you got rid of the classified site, the review site would be in number 1. Google has decided they want to put a classified site in number 1, they'll pick another classified site. So you're not necessarily helping yourself by getting rid of one of these websites.
Thank you. I think otherwise you just creating a space for all of your competitors to jump into as well. So I think in that case, just leave things as they are. But in terms of your strategy for growth, you could look at having a slightly different strategy for each, or going after a very slightly different niche. Things like developing your content, having each as an expert in a slightly different area, so that you kind of cover it as much as possible as the opportunity, maybe.
Not to turn this into the used car podcast, but
why?
I thought I could give information to help, because we have 60, 70 customers that we do used car SEO for. To try and find like an area where one can exist and the other, it's not really going to happen, because Google's got so much smarter now at understanding what the different terms basically mean the same thing. Like, if no matter how you search for a Ford Fiesta, you're going to get the result for buying a Ford Fiesta. So much to the point that you just made there, if you don't have that space, someone else will take that space very, very quickly. So yeah, I don't think there's a way around competing with yourself.
What was your original? Sorry, I'll give you a chance for the microphone to get to you. What was your original thought that maybe if you migrated one into the other, you'd get like a stronger overall site or something, like better than the sum of its parts?
That was one option, but as I understand it, it's not in the roadmap for 2024.
Right, and it's a big job and a big risk, right?
Yes, exactly. My idea, my original thinking was to just go along with it and trying to be as good as possible with both websites. The thing is, the clients is unhappy because when the classified website outranks the other one, because of course it's less revenue, but as you pointed out, another one will take the spot.
Yeah.
And that's really.
I wonder if there are cases where, and there are definitely risks here, but I wonder if there are cases where you could cross-pollinate not the content itself, but some of what's fueling the content. So for example, if you have a database of used cars now that you didn't have before, maybe that could exist in some form on the other domain, as long as it's not presented identically. A lot of used car sites have the same inventory anyway, right? Yeah. So if you have that inventory, maybe you could display that in some way and therefore build out landing pages on the dealership site that you didn't have before, this kind of thing. But there are definitely risks here if it's not done carefully.
Right, thank you very much.
Does anyone else have a used car related SEO question?
It's Crystal from Auto Trader.
In that scenario, with this sort of sister site sort of thing, would you recommend scaffolding your link building and post, signposting to between the two sites? Do you think that would be a useful way of leveraging the rankings?
I think that there's always going to be one site that's the priority in that case. So I think that there's always going to be one site where more resources go into. I mean, obviously you're going to want to optimize both sites as much as you can. But yeah, in terms of your link building, I wouldn't duplicate that across the sites.
So I think the question was also about linking between them.
Oh, between them, yeah. I think, so I think if you link between the sites, that can be quite dangerous as well. So maybe one link, but if you've got too many. So I've experienced that before where we've had too many and it's actually brought down overall performance. And we've had to go back and actually just turn that to one link on the About Us page rather than having it everywhere.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that strongly. I think that you don't want to get to a point where Google thinks it's one big site. Because then you're losing that ability to have multiple ranking positions.
I'll just say something because I haven't said anything. Just thinking about intent and the two different types of sites, I wasn't completely, because I haven't worked in that niche, but if one is specifically listings and one has got more, content about other things, then I'm thinking that when you get people in from either site, and then depending on their intent, sending them to the other site because it's going to send, it's got more top of the funnel questions, blah blah blah. So it's just understanding the difference between those two sites, because for me at the moment I'm like, are they just the same types of sites, or is one got more editorial content and the other is more a listing site? Understanding what is the specific difference between the two of them, I guess, and leveraging that.
Yeah, you could even advertise each site on the other site, but with no follow links. So not really from an SEO point of view, but just to maximize the chance of getting a conversion or a lead.
Where relevant, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I've not followed their trajectory since, but I used to work with, and this is something I can talk about publicly. I used to work with Interflora that most people have heard of, but they had a sister site called Flying Flowers, which basically did the exact same business, but like a little bit smaller and scrappier, and using the same inventory, and they I don't know what they're doing now. They got away with this for years. But they had a sort of powered by Interflora thing at the bottom of the junior website as a bit of a trust signal and this kind of thing, but as opposed to extensively linking between them.
Any more for any more?
Thank you. It's just more of a content strategy question, really. I work in-house for a company. We work then with an external company for SEO as well. But one of the problems that we're having is we use a lot of authority building content to bolster ourselves locally, which we have found has worked in the past, but we're kind of running out of content to do currently. A lot of the new ideas or the new keywords that kind of we're in-house and externally are identifying through competitors and such are, for example, like we're obviously in the security industry. So it's like, can I change my lock myself, or how do I change a lock, for example?
On your car, for example.
Well, we do actually do cars, but more specifically houses. Obviously, from an SEO point of view, massive search potential. Obviously, you've got everyone offering it. Our competitors are offering it, but they offer a slightly different service generally. My, obviously, shareholders, directors are very anti having that sort of content on the site, purely because of the service that we offer. So my question to you would be, what is your thoughts on having a page that's targeting a very high search volume, so how to change your lock, but not actually offering it the correct content in terms of...
So could you just say what specifically is the service that you do offer?
So we're kind of like security everything, fire doors, locksmiths, auto locksmiths, safes, all of that. Obviously, along with that comes if you need to like change the lock on your door. Most people will call a locksmith, or some people will try and DIY it.
Yeah, it seems to me that the query is more aimed at self-serve. The intent there is self-serve, right? So really, I don't see that you're any less credible than a locksmith. If anything, the fact that you're not trying to sell me something is a positive, no?
So it's not. So we are the locksmith service, and we do have certain like self-help guides on our site. But the problem we've got is we've kind of exhausted all that we can without shortchanging ourselves, without getting people to convert. Also, then my shareholders are like, we don't want to tell people how to change their locks.
But they'll just find it somewhere else. Yeah. So a lot of people tackle this as like, I will have some content about this. It will answer the question at least as well as the other people that are ranking. But I'm also going to outline the potential problems. And anyone that really doesn't want to, it's just like, oh, I could have done it. Actually, I'll just going to pay them. So that's how I get around it. It's like, do the FAQ. Yeah. You know, the actual how-to content. But it's like, but actually, it's really hard to just pay us.
So that's kind of what we've got at the moment. But obviously, from an SEO point of view, I'm pushing for it to be more detailed, to be more in line with what our competitors are offering. But ultimately, they're like, no, keep it vague. So competitively, it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So basically, your thoughts are my thoughts.
Just do one the way that you want to do it.
Yeah.
And then measure the conversions on it, and then it will be amazing. And then they'll let you roll it out over all the others.
Go on.
One way to think of it and put it to them might be, you know, if this piece of content existed on another site, would we want to potentially advertise next to it? Or what if we had the content on our own site so we can put ads next to it for free?
Yeah, or would you rather your competitor rank this query or you? You know.
Well, the problem is they already are, and we're ranking less. And obviously, then the argument is why they're obviously asking us why aren't we ranking as high? Our argument is, well,
because we don't answer the question.
And it's not right. So it's kind of that thing of, is there
it can be frustrating, right?
Of getting around, or is it even worth putting it on? Doing it.
I think if someone else is answering the question and you're trying to rank not answering the question, it's not a good game. But
or sell cars.
The battle you have is the internal one, right?
Yes. 100%.
But I think it's kind of like SEO agencies. Like you'll see over the course of this event, a lot of people from SEO agencies will appear on stage or maybe in blog posts and this kind of thing, telling you how to do their jobs, and they're ostensibly doing this still to sell you on the SEO agency. But it's the same principle, right? They're building your trust, and also you're like, wow, actually this is quite complicated and this person's done it before. Whereas when I do read your guide on
how to change my own lock and I'm standing in front of my door and it's midnight and I'm half cut, I'm not going to be like, yes, you know what, I will get out my toolbox.
Well, I think that's kind of what, obviously, I've got my opinion, but as we know with
Which is right.
got their own. Thank you. But again, it's that thing of we either don't do it or we do. There's no in between, pretty much.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
And you can link them this podcast episode, of course.
Anybody else? So we don't have to fill in with singing for the podcast?
Is there any examples of just any awful websites they've ever come across? We can just look at those.
That specifically sell used cars.
Not links. Not links cars.
Crystal?
Zara website.
I'm embarrassed to say I'm not familiar with it.
I think Linen is a good choice.
I said, what do people think of the Zara website?
Okay.
Do you know anything about them? You can be as cagey as you like.
The biggest retailers of the world.
What's the relation between... Thanks. What's the relationship between Zara and Zara Home?
No, like Zara, the main one. I find them very interesting because I think they're a bit of a Marmite of a website. I know people that absolutely hate their website. I also find some of their technical implementation very interesting personally. So
interesting, euphemistically.
I'm interested to hear about y'all's opinion of that website.
Yeah, and the main thing that struck me, I just searched Zara, and why do they have a separate, not even a separate subdomain, a separate domain for part of their business, and unless Zara Home is actually a different business. Okay.
Separate presence in the world, and top of the bit that they don't even.
They don't talk to each other. Could be.
Zara Home.
Was I think there was a different customer base, right? For home. Sorry. There probably is a different customer base for home versus fashion.
There was, I was speaking to someone yesterday, Maria, that works for Kurt Geiger, who was talking about luxury. And she was talking about how a lot of luxury brands are moving away from having any content at all on their home pages, apart from websites and videos, because they're a luxury brand and who needs words. So she was talking about the challenges of that from, being an SEO. So that was, I'd be interested to hear.
I think we've
had experience of that.
I think we've lost video, well, from the screen share, but I'm. You said it was Marmite, but I'm on the hate it side. Like I'm scrolling through, and it's very laggy. For those of you listening, I do not have a small laptop.
But the connection we've got isn't great either, to be honest. Because I was thinking that at the beginning of this, that we don't actually have a great internet connection to experience these.
I'm on 5G, and it's not too bad actually. Or it hasn't been bad on the other sites.
Yeah, that's been fine. And there always will be some people who are on their phone.
Yeah, it's not a ridiculous scenario. But also, as I'm scrolling through these sort of dynamically loading massive images, often a lot of the text on the page is obscured by other text on the page. It's just on top of each other. At the moment, I can't look at Zara pre-owned because join our newsletter is written on top of it, which is fine, I guess. And similarly, there's this symbol in the bottom right, which, there's an extensive accessibility menu, ironically, in the bottom right, but the logo for that is also obscuring navigation on the site. So, maybe slightly ironic. I preferred the used car websites.
I'd definitely be interested to, have a look at this and do a crawl of it and see, what can Google actually
for sure
be identified, because I guess that there's a lot of stuff that probably they can't even find, and if Google can't, then if you had the same website in China, for example, there's a good chance that
I suspect the main nav is plain HTML. It's just all of these massive images, but I would certainly want to check that.
There's another luxury brand that I was looking at a website for recently, and all of their product pages are completely unindexable by Baidu, and China's a big market for them, and it's a lot of luxury brands. So,
I take it back. This main nav is certainly not plain HTML.
I mean, they are actually loading text server side. So I think Google should be pulling up the text at least.
I mean, Google is pretty good at rendering sites.
Yeah,
these days
just,
as well.
A gamble. But then I would like to take a deeper look into whether they've got like any like canonicals kind of contradicting themselves or anything like that, because it's obviously a JavaScript site, and I've seen lots of problems like that before, where you've got kind of the contents there, but you haven't actually got like the meta descriptions and the titles contradicting the HTML meta description and title because you're publishing it via JavaScript as well. Or you've got canonicals that are contradicting each other, and you have this huge problem with what actual content is getting in.
Honestly, this website barely works on my laptop, let alone Google. I don't know what's happening.
To be a SEO agency brought in to look at this website, because the first piece of advice would be scrap it and start again. From an SEO point of view, I don't think they built it to be an SEO friendly website. They built it to be different and quirky and very Zara.
Can we pass that back? Pass the mic back. Hi.
Right. I was wondering if we could talk about tools for a minute in terms of like auditing a website from a technical perspective, technical or content analysis, or even on-page SEO. So like you could use SEMrush's technical site audit, but if somebody asks you to audit a site right now, I'm wondering what would be your initial go-to, particularly for like a smaller site, like maybe a B2B brochure site with 100 pages or 200 pages.
I have to declare a conflict of
I was
interest.
going to say, anyone that doesn't work for a streaming provider.
That said, if I could add credibility to my answer by shooting myself in the foot immediately, I would probably use Screaming Frog. Like most of the tools you mentioned, SEMrush, Ahrefs, etc., Moz does have built-in site audit. I think those kinds of functionality are fine for beginners or people who just want something basic in an all-in-one. But I would still use Screaming Frog, and I think the Screaming Frog free variant would be enough for a smaller site like you're mentioning. Yeah.
But some of the features are missing, aren't they?
In Screaming Frog, you mean?
Yeah, on the free version. So you might not be able to do everything. But the license is quite cheap as well. So it's worth investing in.
Alongside that, Google Search Console,
100%, yeah.
Place to start as well. Like, are the pages actually, being failed? Are there pages that Google don't even know exist? Are there pages that they can find but they can't render? All of these checks,
Although I think I read something recently, the live page test in Search Console isn't quite representative anymore.
Yes,
I can't remember the details on that, but yeah, I mean it's still the best thing you've got, basically.
Just a follow-up question: if you were doing an audit, what's the kind of threshold for either recommending that they need a new website or to like Frankenstein the existing one? Like talk there, okay, Zara need a new website, and it was quite clear. But sometimes you need to kind of make the decision to tell the client whether, okay, you actually need a new website.
Honestly, that's as much an org question as a site question. And one of the reasons why I'd agree that with Zara, I'd scrap it is I can imagine how difficult it would be in a company like Zara to get a large number of changes implemented iteratively. If it depends on the kind of company. I think if you're dealing with a WordPress site in a small company and it's a total disaster, that probably is redeemable, right? Because it's a small company, they'll know their developers, it's a WordPress site, it's not rocket science. Like you probably can actually work with that. So it's more a question of how difficult it's going to be to get stuff done, in my opinion at least, than it is about how bad the site is.
Yeah, it's thinking about which platform it's built on. If it's a platform like WordPress, like Drupal, like Magento, etc., that is built to be SEO friendly as a platform, then it's likely that any issues can be fixed and there are workarounds. And also there's probably, enough people online who run into similar problems, you can work out what the problem is. Something very bespoke, which I'm guessing Zara site is not the matter.
I think that when you're suggesting, especially with a small business, medium-sized business, that they redo their website, it's a question of you illustrating what the benefits to them will be for a new website, because I think as SEOs sometimes we get bees in our bonnet. This desperately needs fixing. It's like, how is that going to affect my bottom line? Changing that. So a lot of the time it's like, one, you're going to get, let's make up a number, 50% more organic traffic, and you're going to convert more of them, and you need to come up with some numbers probably, or just do a picture of yourself banging your head on the desk and just send that. Just say new website.
Kind of like we said about ATG as well. Extensive technical SEO work is not the right play for every business. I think SEO as a channel is already not necessarily the right play for startups, shall we say, sometimes. Like, if anything, I would say local would be where I would start if I was doing SEO for a small business that did have brick and mortar. But, if I used to work in a place where VC-funded startups would often ask us for work, and they had the budget, but it's, honestly, you're not ready for this yet. Like this, there are other channels you should pursue that will give you the results in the time frame that you need. Do those first. And I think even when you do get to businesses where SEO is a worthwhile channel pursuing, for smaller businesses, it's not necessarily the case that technical SEO, unless it's really bad, is the best based site. Technical SEO tends to show highest ROI on bigger sites, on enterprise sites that already have a lot of content, already have a lot of equity, a lot of brand. When you're working with much smaller sites, unless technical SEO is absolutely disastrous, it tends to be that they don't have any equity, they don't have any brand, and working on that sort of like content and coverage and PR play is a bigger win in the short term, in my experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But I think in terms of technical SEO for smaller sites, the one area I would say that you have to pick up on is infrastructure and internal linking, because that's what I usually see lacking on smaller websites. So there is always that aspect, but there's always going to be a limit to how much technical SEO you need on a small website. And it is going to be mainly looking at your content and building that brand and building the signals that actually build the brand as well. So looking at PR and looking at local SEO.
Yeah, I think internal linking is a good shout, though. I think particularly if you don't have a lot of, I hate the phrase really, but if you don't have a lot of link equity to deal with, then internal linking is really important to make the most out. It's on most sites, internal linking changes will do more for the strength of your pages than external linking changes. So that is one area I agree that's worth getting right.
So I think that getting unsolicited, low quality links is just part of life. It's just reality for most sites, especially those that have like more than even 100,000 visitors a month. What approach do you recommend if you see a rise in the amount of these links that you discover from, let's say, SEMrush? That's the tool we use. And especially if you're also seeing in your search console, Google Search Console, these links that are not real pages, but someone, let's say, exploiting your internal search to create them, like often with the backslash search structure. You have these structures as equal, especially for WordPress sites. So if these two coincide in timeline, it could be a sign of negative SEO. Have you seen this, and what do you recommend how to recover?
I have seen this. I've never seen it be particularly impactful.
No.
So there's two things. One is if they're linking to these sort of maybe non-existent or crawl trap areas of your site, make sure that's in order so they're not creating crawl budget problems for you or indexing problems or duplication or something like this. Make sure the technical SEO around that is in order and they're redirected or whatever. From the actual spamminess point of view, I'm sure there are cases where it does work, but in my experience, I've never seen it work, basically. I've never worked on a site that doesn't get a lot of these kind of links. And I've also never seen them have a material impact. If you want to be, if you're really concerned and you want to do a proactive disavow, you can. Don't cut too deep. Obviously, there's probably more risk than reward in a disavow file these days. So keep it to the stuff that you're absolutely certain is no use at all.
I'd only do a disavow if there's already a manual action.
Pretty much the same.
I haven't done a disavow file now for 5 or 6 years because I just don't see it as useful.
I think it does depend. I think if you're looking at a site that doesn't have a very good link profile and they suddenly kind of explode in a link farm, I would then disavow, because you're kind of...
it's going to be a huge proportion of their links, then.
Yeah. So I would in that case, but I think in most cases you can ignore it and you can just get on with building a good link profile and getting those authority links. Because especially if Google's already aware of these links and you're not being penalized for it, just go ahead and keep doing good work.
Yeah, there is nothing under manual actions. Everything is clean. It's just So what you were saying earlier that it's rare for pretty much any site to not have these issues.
I've never worked on a large site that isn't getting a steady trickle of crap through in their new links. I don't, to be honest, I don't understand why people bother, but I don't think it's a negative SEO attack. I think it's just part and parcel of being on the internet, and there's a lot of auto-generated rubbish out there.
Have you also seen the exploitation of like internal site search?
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually ignore that and maybe put robots.txt in place to make sure that it's not fraud.
Like just handle it by throwing a 404 error?
Leave it as a 404 error, yeah. So maybe have a rule in place that it does turn into a 404.
Yeah, the only thing is, the main thing from my perspective is make sure it doesn't create a crawl trap.
Does it what?
Create a crawl trap. Like you don't want it to link to some area of the site that is just going to generate infinite URLs. But yeah, beyond that, particularly if you've got any concerns around where the links are coming from, a 404 robots.txt block, something like that.
Any thoughts on whether 404 or 410?
I don't think it matters, if I'm honest.
I've never seen an impact of the 410, to be honest. I've never seen it, be picked up quicker by Google.
Hi, thank you. I have a local question. So, I have a client that in their space, there's a ton of spam. The other day I had to report 10 fake listings. It was the same business, same address, different phone number with different names. Besides reporting these, fake listings, is there anything else that you would recommend?
Did you use the redressal form?
Yeah.
Okay. I would probably... Google support, in your experience, has probably not been brilliant because it's under-resourced generally. So what I would probably do is keep a really, really good record. So you've got your Google Sheet with everything in it, including all of the, when you've submitted a redressal, all of the emails you get back. And then I'd probably go into the Google Business Profile community, and I would identify one of the gold product experts that deals with spam. And I would probably get on, develop some sort of, not like, will you fix this for me? But they're the ones that get to escalate that then to the higher support, basically. So I think it is a question of, especially if you see some sort of network or something which is really spammy, is just get someone on side that can maybe help you. Because it will be very hard to tackle on your own.
And I have a feature request for BrightLocal, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I have a business that has 100 plus locations, and it's hard to get, reporting for all of those locations like in one view, right? So I was wondering if that was something.
I think we'll have a chat after, and I'll put you in touch with the right person.
Okay.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Local questions only now.
All right, used cars.
Back to used cars, please. Anyone?
I've kind of got two questions, sorry. First question is, what's your opinion on expandable content or accordions on a page?
Carry on.
I'm very anti them, personally. But obviously from a UX perspective, and obviously from people who obviously look at their conversion, they're saying that our content is then too long. But I don't feel that it does it justice from an SEO point of view.
I'm going to advertise someone else's product again and get fired later. But are you familiar with the tool? I'm not recommending the tool to you, but rather their content. Are you familiar with the tool Search Pilot?
Actually not. No.
So that they do a bunch of SEO A/B testing. They've done they have a bunch of case studies they've done on larger sites with this exact question. I recommend you go and take a look. I think the short story is it can be fine. Google says it's fine. It can be fine. It's not necessarily. I particularly on desktop, I personally am with you. I'm not a huge fan. On mobile, I kind of get it.
Yeah, I did a slightly different test before and found that generally it doesn't seem to have an impact on pages coming up in the results, but it does impact that accordion content getting pulled as a featured snippet. And so, yeah, very rarely do featured snippets include accordion content.
Yeah, because it's most of this content that's in an accordion is on our local admin pages. I mean, we have over like 2,000 of them. So they generate from a mass global content, which again is its own issue. But obviously the argument has always been, whilst we've been reviewing the pages, whether to take this information out of an accordion. So I'm obviously pro it, they're obviously anti it. So if it's only a featured snippet, really it potentially could impact, and Google saying it's okay, then maybe it's worth leaving it in, or putting it in, I should say.
On balance, I'd say, yeah, it sounds like it's probably content that isn't going to be a disadvantage to have it in there. It can be used by Google to understand the page and the context of the page. In some cases, yeah, if you've got something like an introduction, a definition, or something that's suited to being a featured snippet or is more important, maybe have that as not within an accordion at the top of the page, and then the kind of more detailed content, put in that way.
I think we are out of time, so I just want to say big thank you to all of the lovely panellists, and a big thank you to you for having excellent questions and lots of ideas, and thank you for coming, and thank you for the tech team.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode of the Internet Marketing Podcast, produced by the team behind BrightonSEO, the world's largest specialist digital marketing conference covering SEO, PPC, paid social, web analytics and content marketing. If you want to find out more about us and the show, you can check out the website, internetmarketingpodcast.org. And if you've not already subscribed to the show, you should hit that subscribe button. And can I ask a favour, if you are subscribed and you're enjoying the show, can you leave us a review wherever you're watching or listening to the show? And if you want to get in touch, become a guest on the show, or just generally feedback about what we're doing, you can always email me. That's kelvin@brightonseo.com. So KELVIN@brightonseo.com. Or of course, you can contact me on social media. So at LinkedIn or Twitter, my usernames are Kelvin Newman. See you soon.